Boy, I'm running really late. 7:09, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7. I blame Joan.
Why?
For us being so
we're
late.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all your fault and Sam's fault. It's never the host's fault. It's always,
right.
It's always the help.
Not in my household, not in my neighborhood.
I'm just kidding. Totally kidding. Joan, you were talking about a hotline for, what was that hotline for?
Yeah, so if you are worried about somebody and you want a well-being check on them, you can call 800-TBI-FIND. It's Tennessee Bureau of Investigation. It's the number you call for everything for TBI, 800-TBI-FIND.
Hotline. Wouldn't it be more appropriate to call it a cold line right now? Because it's...
Oh, my gosh, Dan.
I thought that was funny, but apparently I'm the only one. See if the people in the YouTube chat thought that was funny. I guess this made my day, Joan. Real quickly, then I'm going to get to something else.
Yeah.
Matthew Hurtt is going to be on with us at 7:35.
Okay.
He's in there yucking it up on the YouTube chat. Matthew Hurtt has discovered the greatness of the YouTube chat. So we'll talk to him at 7:35 here on Nashville's Morning News. Earlier I was talking about what is going on in, obviously, Minnesota and across the country with, Donald Trump is now trying to kind of sort of make nice with Tim Walz and Jacob Fry. And so now we have Tom Homan going in and Kristi Noem and Greg Bovino going out as far as who's going to be running the illegal alien operations in Minnesota. So it sounds like Trump what he's trying to do is trying to sort of de-escalate the situation.
Well, you know what? When you say that Kristi Noem is out
of Minnesota.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I think we need to distinguish that because it sounds like she's out of her job. She's not.
No, but people are saying that's coming. I don't know. I hope not.
CBS reporting this morning she's not going to lose her job.
That's exactly right. Hey, real quick. But my point is that with President Trump trying to make nice with Jacob Fry and Tim Walz, do you think that people on the ground? We talked about this a little bit in the 5. I've got some new audio. Do you think people on the ground are going to say, oh, well, we've got Tom Homan here now. And so I'm sure that, all of the Antifa types are going to, stand down now that it's not Greg Bovino and Kristi Noem. It's now Tom Homan. I don't think they're going to stand down. I think they're probably going to escalate. There is this audio and video. I've got video here, Sam. There's a nurse. This is horrifying. You sent this to me, Joan.
Yeah.
There is a nurse. She is named Melinda, and she is a healthcare worker at VCU Health, and this is in Virginia Commonwealth University. I want you to listen to what she's saying because she is talking about doing horrible things to ICE agents. Listen to this.
I thought of something good. I think it's something weird spot. Sabotage tactic, or at least scare tactic. All the medical providers, grab some syringes with needles on the end. Have them full of saline or succinylcholine, whatever. That will probably be a deterrent. Be safe.
So that medicine,
succinylcholine,
that is a temporary paralyzing drug.
Yes.
In other words, she's a nurse.
She's a nurse at VCU.
So this nurse is actually giving tips on how to medically injure ICE agents if they happen to come into her office. Now, this is not the first nurse that I've seen do this. There have been other nurses as well that I've seen, calling for the same kind of things done against ICE agents. Joan, we talked a couple of days ago about how there are delivery nurses that are saying that they hope that Caroline Leavitt's birthing of her child causes her extreme damage to her body so that she would essentially, bleed profusely, maybe even bleeding out. There is no bottom with these people. That's kind of what I'm noticing. There's no bottom with these people. Here's more from Nurse Melinda at VCU Health.
Okay, for today's resistance tip, I vote.
By the way, she's calling these resistance tips.
Anybody got any poison ivy, poison oak in their yard? Get some of that up with gloves, obviously. Get it in some water, like a gallon of water. Get the poison ivy oak water, and I'm gonna put it into a water gun. Aim for faces, hands.
So if you missed that, because she's talking kind of low and sinister, but she's saying get poison oak or poison ivy and put it in a gallon of water, then put that water in a water gun and shoot the ICE agents in the face.
Yeah, that's going to go over well. They're not going to know what liquid's being shot at them, and you're going to end up getting thrown to the ground and handcuffed. You're not just going to, it's not going to get shrugged off by the agents.
Well, and you'll notice, Joan, that she is recommending this for others to do. She's trying to do like hey, if you want to go after these guys medically, here's what you can do. You can inject them with a temporary paralyzing drug or squirt them with poison oak or poison ivy laden water. I mean, this is what the left is doing. This is why I get, so frustrated. I wish Donald Trump would call for the Insurrection Act because I want these punks taken down. I realize this is a nurse at VCU, but I just don't surrender. Don't wave the white flag. This is what the other side is doing, and they're not going to stop. They are not going to stop. And so I'm just, for me, number one, I don't know if this lady can be charged with any kind of a crime. I don't know if you're the legal expert on this show, Sam.
Don't say expert. Don't say.
Yeah, I just had Jonathan Fahey on. I should have asked him. There's one more, and this is Nurse Melinda, and she is giving resistance tips on TikTok.
Are the single ladies where these ICE guys are going have a chance to do something, not without risk, but could help the cause for sure. Get on Tinder, get on Hinge, find these guys. They're around. They're an ICE agent, bring some X-Lax and put it in their drinks.
So, in case you're missing, she's saying get on Hinge or whatever. So get on these dating apps where she believes that ICE agents might be and let them take you to dinner and then put X-Lax in their drinking water. Am I supposed to know what that is?
I think that was Joan.
Oh, is that Joan? All right.
Sorry.
But no,
I thought that was some sort of a sound effect you were using to signify X-Lax, which we know what X-Lax does.
Criminally, bit of a stretch, but I think definitely, medical review board now with Abigail Spanberger being the governor, who knows, since they're totally okay with murder in Virginia now.
Right.
But I think her license should be pulled or at least under review. And the fact that she's making these videos on the clock at the hospital is a horrible sign for that.
Yeah, she's wearing scrubs.
Yeah.
So she's doing this while she's working.
It's why she's talking so low, because she doesn't want her employers to know. But I can tell you that was on Libs of TikTok, and
yeah.
I have already retweeted it, and I'm sure other people have.
Oh, can you imagine?
Yeah.
But see, so this is my point, is that when you look at that there is no bottom with these people. There is no bottom. And so, you see the death of Renee Good or Alex Preddy. And listen, I don't wish anyone to die. But at the same time, this is the kind of people we're talking about. And when it comes to Alex Preddy, and again, I don't wish death upon anyone. But this is a guy who, it is alleged, he was part of this Signal chat group that was part of the resistance to ICE and, of course, the Border Patrol as well in Minnesota. And so, FAFO. By the way, I'm gonna go ahead and replay. Should I save this Antifa Kyle audio for Chris Hand and the Chris Cross handoff? Do we know if Chris is going to be in today, by the way?
No clue.
Is Chris going to be at home?
I have no idea.
All right. I'm going to go ahead and, Chris, if you're listening, let me know. I'm going to go ahead and play this Antifa Kyle audio. This is an Antifa member. I did play this right at the start of the show at 5 o'clock. This is Antifa. Just to let you know, there's no bottom for people on the left and what they're willing to do to ICE agents. This is Antifa Kyle.
My name is Kyle. I'm Antifa, and there's so much rage in me that I've had to record this like 15 times trying to get the message out. They f***ed up. Okay? Go watch my other videos. Doesn't matter if you're not here and you're not caught up. You missed the fucking fight. But if you are, it's time to suit up. Boots on the ground. Nicollet and fucking 26th. My house is 4 blocks away. Anywhere between Franklin and Nicollet and 26th and Nicollet. Show up, ready to go. Okay? Not talking about peaceful protests anymore. We're not talking about having polite conversations.
So my comment to that comment would be, when have you ever been about peaceful protests or polite conversation? You're part of Antifa, Kyle, so we understand exactly what you do, and we understand exactly what you stand for. Now, I think it was Sam or Joan, one of you two, pointed out, actually somebody on the super text line did, and you guys saw it. Old Antifa Kyle, apparently Joan likes to wear dresses. And
I've seen him wearing a pretty red dress.
A pretty red dress?
Yeah.
Okay. Very good. And
he doesn't have the legs for it.
Here's more from... Go ahead, say it.
Or the boobs.
Okay, thank you. Here's more from flat-chested Antifa Kyle.
Anymore. I am talking specifically to my followers. This is everything I have talked about, and this is exactly what I said was going to happen.
So here's what I would say to Antifa Kyle. This is exactly what I said was going to happen. Is you're going to have Jacob Fry and Tim Waltz and Keith Ellison and these Democrats and the media vilify ICE and the Border Patrol, and so you're going to gin up all of this anger and all of this hatred. Those people will then act upon that anger. People like Antifa Kyle, and then you know what's going to happen? They're going to end up getting shot dead. And then the media's going to be like, oh, no, Antifa Kyle. He's actually Kyle. And he, has 17 children from 15 different mothers or whatever. And he looked great in a red dress. I have no idea. But you know how this plays out, right? So all of a sudden, Antifa Kyle, if he ends up being shot dead by the Border Patrol or ICE, suddenly this video is nowhere to be found. And you'll see, photographs of him when he was a junior in high school and with his, Boy Scout group and, all of those kinds of things. Here's more from Antifa Kyle.
This is exactly what I said was going to come when we didn't go and march on Whipple with guns. Sorry, but welcome to America 2026, where Second Amendment is the only thing that's going to keep you protected from literal Nazi gunmen that are killing innocent people in the street with impunity. This is not a joke. There's nothing fun to chant about it. Get your guns and stop these people.
There you go, Antifa Kyle. He said, perfectly reasonable reaction. And then they wonder why people like this ultimately either get arrested, get beaten up by ICE, or end up getting shot.
Yeah. It's not a joke, but, him in a dress definitely is. And he probably should have checked out the Sydney Sweeney, Hollywood sign.
So I have not actually seen it. Joan, is Joan, are you listening, Joan?
I'm here, yep.
So the whole Sydney Sweeney thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So she took a couple of, I want to make sure I have this right.
Braziers.
Took a couple of her braziers, and did she hang them off of the O's in Hollywood on the Hollywood sign? Is that what she did?
You know what? I don't have any photos of it. I just know what she did.
I saw.
Did you see photos?
I saw bits of the clip.
Yeah.
So, obviously, this sign has been vandalized a ton over the years.
Yeah.
And if she gets actually charged compared to the other people that have messed with it, then it really speaks volumes to the fact that, this is selective treatment towards her. I didn't see exactly what letters they were strewn over, but I think a couple of them were white. So I don't know how people are really going to... I think it was more about for the video than it was for people driving by the Hollywood sign going, is that a little white bra hanging off the O?
Well, okay, so just first of all, a Hollywood sign is way too far away. You're not going to be able to see a brassiere hanging down. But I would say, though, that if she was hanging those bras off of the O's to signify her breasts, well, her breasts are actually bigger than the O's in the Hollywood sign.
Okay.
You have that on good authority or what?
Listen,
What is your source?
I withheld there when you said that, the Hollywood sign's so far away from the highway you couldn't see a brassiere. And then I said, well, Dan, it's because they don't have your bras out there.
Oh, whatever.
I withheld till you had to bring it up.
No, she is very well endowed, is all I'm saying. And that's the whole point. What are you laughing at? This is the whole point of the thing. Listen, you both know this is true. Every other day, I get people yelling at me to do pop culture stuff. So I'm doing pop culture stuff. I can't get in trouble when I do pop culture stuff, when I give my quirky pop culture opinions.
Come on, man.
That's what I'm saying. Give that big middle finger to the consultants. That's what we need to do. Dan, you got to do more pop culture. I try, and then I say something creepy and weird. I've got to ask the question, is there no limit to the idiocy of Minnesota Governor Tim Walz? Listen to this.
We have got children in Minnesota hiding in their houses, afraid to go outside. Many of us grew up reading that story of Anne Frank.
Wow.
Somebody's going to write that children's story about Minnesota. And there's one person who can end this now.
Uh-oh, retard alert. Retard alert, class.
Matthew Hurtt joins us on Super Talk 99.7. I don't know, Matthew, I guess the question is, by the way, Matthew, our grassroots political analyst. And Matthew, I don't know, is there any, I'm noticing a recurring theme in the broadcast today. Is there any bottom to the Democrats and the things that they do and say?
Look, as someone who lived through the COVID shutdowns of 2020, where I watched a Virginia governor close down restaurants and bars, and where I watched my neighbors call the police and call county officials over people peacefully assembling at outdoor venues, outdoor restaurants, there will be a story written in the history books about this, and it will not be people upholding our immigration laws. It will be the leftists and nanny statists and Karens who drove up and down the street looking for people unmasked, having a hamburger and drinking a beer at an outdoor venue for 6 or 8 months in 2020.
Do you know what, Matthew? You bring up a really interesting point that I've actually spoken to my wife about, and that is, and this is veering off topic, but when they write the history books on COVID, so like when COVID and they start writing the history books and, you know, for school and everything, do you think that they'll focus on the complete annihilation of our civil liberties and our rights? Or will they just stick to, you know, COVID happened and, you know, nobody really knows what happened. But the reality is they did trample on our rights, and it did come from China, and it did escape, in my opinion, it did escape from that Chinese lab. I mean, how will history in like the high school and the junior high school history books, what will they say about COVID? Will they just stick to, you know, for example, the Democrats' company line, or will they talk about what really happened?
It's a great question, but the point I think your listeners should take from this is how easy it is for people who believe that government should have all the power to very quickly, in a matter of weeks in 2020, to turn against their neighbors. And it is something that we should be on the lookout for as well on the right. But this is a knee-jerk reaction of people who absent an actual religion, Christianity, Judaism, Islam, whatever their religion is, absent a religious belief, their religious belief is government, and the only people who can tell us how to run our lives and should be allowed to and should be able to carry guns in many instances are government agents, and that is a certain segment of the political spectrum on the left.
Well, and just to put a fine point on this, you know, Walz has been invoking the Holocaust, which to me, by the way, I believe that's anti-Semitic, because what you're doing is you're really trying to dilute what happened during the Holocaust, and you're downplaying what happened during the Holocaust. I mean, you know, kids were killed and Jews were killed just for being Jewish. They were captured, thrown in camps, tortured, and brutally killed, including 1 million children. Illegal aliens and some of these kids, they're simply being either relocated back to their home countries. Some of these people are being thrown in prison for their crimes and so forth. But, you know, to try to equate them, I think, is just horribly anti-Semitic. Now, on to other things. I'm not part of the cool Republican kids club to, you know, go to like these Republican functions, but you did. Last week, you went to Santa Barbara, and we spoke, I think it was after day one of the Republican, I don't know, was it, these are like Republican meetings that were going on? Remind me what it was?
So the Republican National Committee meets 2 or 3 times a year, and it is the governing body of the Republican Party. So in Tennessee, you have 3 members. There are 3 members from every state and territory. Your members are Tennessee GOP Chairman Scott Golden, Beth Campbell, who lives there in Nashville, and Oscar Brock, son of Congressman Bill Brock from the Chattanooga area. And they go 2 or 3 times a year. It's essentially the board of directors for the Republican Party. The committee passed a resolution honoring the memory of Charlie Kirk, who, of course, was assassinated last September, and there was some other minor business that took place. But this board of directors meets 2 or 3 times a year, and I've been to almost every one of them since the Tampa convention in 2012, where I was a Ron Paul supporting delegate, not to derail us again.
So what was discussed? I mean, is there any sort of policy issues discussed? We talk about, the midterms and maybe strategizing what the Republican Party as a whole will do to protect the very small majority in the House of Representatives and in the majority in the Senate as well. I mean, what do you do?
There was discussion about the midterms, and in fact, the entire 168 member body passed a rule that is going to permit a midterm convention sometime in the summer where the RNC chairman and representatives from the states will gather. I think this will play out like a rally, like a Trump rally. And so that is going to happen sometime in the summer. And then, of course, there's a lot of discussion on House races. The Republican Party fundraising for last year as we head into the midterm elections is tens of millions of dollars better than the Democrats. And they are using budgeted money from 2025 already to lay the groundwork for 2026 midterms. There was a sort of mixed sentiment on what's going to happen and how it's going to play out. But I do think the national Republican infrastructure is well positioned with resources to make a strong go into the midterm elections, and that was discussed pretty heavily.
I think it's really smart to try to drum up excitement heading into the midterm elections, and I think that there is clearly a difference between the Democrats and the Republicans these days, and I think that Minnesota is really just ground zero for that. Let's talk about Minnesota, because I think that really could be ground zero for the differences between Republicans and Democrats. Republicans, of course, want law and order. We want legal immigration. We want to get rid of and deport the bad guys. And obviously, we know that, there's a lot of activists in Minnesota, not to mention, of course, Jacob Fry and Tim Walz, and they personify, really the resistance as far as politicians go. And I think that when you see somebody like an Alex Preddy or a Renee Good killed, I think that for the Democrats, this is just collateral damage to a far bigger mission. What say you?
Well, this is after months and months of Governor Tim Walz and the mayor of Minneapolis saying, resist ICE. Resist ICE. What we see now over the last few days is the signal groups that you had discussed earlier in the show, where these leftist organizers, a highly organized group of leftist agitators, are exposing where ICE is staying. There was a local law enforcement, I can't remember the town in Minnesota, just outside Minneapolis. The local law enforcement actually had to go and defend a hotel where ICE agents were staying from protesters. It seems like the tide is turning. Governor Walz had a conversation with Trump. I think this is going to wind up being a win for President Trump. I think that absent all the other elements that happened in the Pretty situation, we've got a situation where Democrats have created an atmosphere where they've said, go out and obstruct justice and engage with federal law enforcement, prevent them from doing their jobs, which is unlawful, as Jonathan Fahey talked about an hour ago. It is unlawful to do this, and people are finding out. And I think that every law-abiding citizen should be able to carry a firearm. In Richmond, Virginia, 2 years ago, we had 20,000 lawfully armed people protesting the government, and there wasn't a single incident. But there are individuals who are going out in bad faith to engage and obstruct justice, and that is going to yield results that wind up harming and hurting, and unfortunately wound up with Mr. Purdy being killed. But there are many other things happening here, and it is collateral damage that the Democrats are they're moving their chess pieces on the board, and they're doing this on purpose.
So you live in Virginia. I don't know if you heard, but Jonathan Fahey was actually talking about, I forget what other state he mentioned, but I know that he said that he was thinking about moving to the state of Tennessee because he lives in Virginia somewhere. And he's dealing with a new governor, Abigail Spanberger, and you are as well. You live in Arlington. So how's it going? Are you looking at, Realtor.com and other parts of the country?
Dan, it's an awkward question. We went from common sense to California in about 4 days. That said, given some family matters, I have gone from 0 homes to inheriting 2 homes in the Nashville area over the last several weeks. And there is no income tax in Tennessee. It looks like the Democrats in Richmond are going to double the income tax, possibly even more than double the income tax on the highest earners. Virginia is going to look a lot more like California over the next 4 years, but I am committed to staying and fighting in this community for limited government, and particularly in Arlington. If I was going to surrender with the election of Abigail Spanberger, I would have surrendered 16 years ago when I moved to Arlington.
All right. Speaking of surrendering, what do you think about Donald Trump having these conversations with Jacob Fry and Tim Walz? And, really it does seem like President Trump is trying to de-escalate. A lot of folks have been wanting him to actually go in harder with the Insurrection Act. But after the death of Alex Preddy, it looks like the president, may be, again, trying to de-escalate the situation. Some people are, saying, no, he shouldn't do this. Other people saying, yes, it's a welcome relief to a very intense situation. My official opinion on this is I don't think that the nut jobs out there that, I've been playing some of their audio this morning, I don't think that they're going to stop, even if, Tom Homan replaces Chrissy Noem and Greg Bovino in Minnesota.
Tom Homan, who was awarded by President Obama for his efforts to curb illegal immigration back in 2015 or so. What is the president's responsibility? The president's responsibility is to uphold and execute federal law. He is doing so in Minnesota by deploying Immigration and Customs Enforcement to uphold federal law. Having Governor Walz and the mayor come to the table to have these conversations, because, again, for the last 6, 8, 10, 12 months, these two and many other Democrats in Minnesota have said, you must go out and obstruct justice. That's what they're advising activists to do. It is the responsibility of Governor Walz and every other Democrat elected official in Minnesota to tone down the narrative. They're always talking about subversion of democracy. Well, the voters had their say in 2024. They wanted stricter immigration laws. We elected President Trump, so why don't we stop? Why don't the Democrats stop subverting democracy in Minnesota and let the president do his job?
You think they will? I mean, where do you see this whole thing ending? We have now the Democrats, they want to defund ICE and they want to defund the Border Patrol. The government, it looks like it may very well shut down on Friday heading into Saturday morning. You think the Democrats would take the blame for this one again?
It's hard to say. Republicans almost always take the blame for the government shutdown. It was a mix the last time around, and it will be very hard for Democrats to vote on an appropriations bill that includes Homeland Security funding, and that is unfortunate that they are willing to play politics when all the president and ICE are trying to do is execute and uphold the laws that are on the books, the same laws that President Obama upheld, the same laws that even to a certain extent George W. Bush upheld. These are things, it is the responsibility of the federal government to uphold the law. And when Governor Walz and others in Minnesota get in the way, they are obstructing justice, and it is unlawful.
Matthew Hurtt, I heard that you were hanging out in the YouTube chat. How'd you like it in the YouTube chat? There are a bunch of awesome people in there, aren't they?
A lot of great folks in the YouTube chat and some people who can't read maps, according to some commenters, but it's mostly peaceful in there.
Wow. So Matthew Hurtt throwing some shade to the people there in the YouTube chat. They can't read maps, you say? What?
I don't know. I caught half of a look like a back and forth, but you guys, WTN is a great station. You can listen to it anywhere in the country, and so when I'm going to come on, I'm going to jump in the chat and see what's going on in there.
I love the YouTube chatters. I really do, and you're right. I love the fact that we have listeners from all across the country because, and I don't think people who listen to WTN, unless they have a broader perspective of talk radio, they don't understand how unique WTN is. I mean, WTN is an incredibly unique station, and we got, live and local 5A, 7P, and we've got a lot of great hosts on this radio station. We've got, Sam producing in the morning, which, of course, we up our game there in the morning drive with Sam is producing and Joan is the news. And, it's a great station.
It is. And as I finished my first milk sandwich of the morning, because I landed late Saturday evening and all we had at the Whole Foods across the street was A2 non-homogenized milk. As I finished my first milk sandwich, I think I'll wade back into the chat.
Well, very good. You have fun with that, and you've just come off as very hoity-toity talking about Whole Foods. I'm just kidding. I love Whole Foods. You got to get one of those big old potatoes at Whole Foods. You know what I'm talking about?
I'll try, but that's what my sister calls me, a big old potato.
Okay. 750. Thank you very much. Matthew Hurtt joining us here on Super Talk 99.7. If you want to say hello to him, go to the YouTube. That's what we should do, Joan.
What's that?
We should have guest stars just pop into the YouTube chat.
Oh.
Wouldn't that be cool?
Yeah.
It's called pre-selling.
Yeah, we could. You know what? That's what we do. It's hey, you want to go talk to Matthew Hurtt? Go talk to him in the YouTube chat. Specifically, if he is accusing you of not knowing how to read a map, which I don't know what's going on in the YouTube chat today.
Sometimes it pops off so quickly, I don't have time to catch up.
Oh, it goes. Well, the YouTube chat is like the super text line, right? Where we got so many people that are chiming in all the time, and I'll find myself answering one person, and then it jumps, and then I end up answering, somebody else's. I end up responding to the wrong person because we got all of the text messages kind of jumping in, and it's just which is what I like about WTN. Joan, I've been on stations where you could just clearly tell that there's nobody listening.
Yeah.
Right? You know what I'm talking about too, don't you?
I do. Yep.
So I've done enough fill-in across the country that I know when being on stations where just there's not a lot of people there, not to sit here and kiss butt of WTN, but I love WTN. I love this job. I love the listeners. And I love my friends who work here as well. And so if you want to go hang out with Matthew Hurtt in the YouTube chat, knock yourself out. It is on a YouTube. Is there a chat on Facebook? I never actually watch on Facebook.
People comment and chat, but we're not signed in to monitor from this computer.
No, all right. I've never. Do you know what's so funny, Joan? I've never watched WTN on Facebook ever.
Oh no, I have. Yeah,
have you? Mm-hmm. Which do you like better?
I think YouTube just for the chat.
There's more personality there.
Yeah, there is.
I want to find, and I'm going to do here. Valerie, awesome! I found it. You know what Valerie says in the super text? I'm trying really hard to not lose my humanity in all of this Minnesota chaos, but she says I'm finding it difficult to sympathize at all over this latest protester shooting. She says all I can do is pray. I know what she's talking about.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's you know what? I have a hard time. I'm not glad that Alex Preddy or Renee Good, I'm not happy that they were killed. Of course not. But it's also very difficult to drum up a lot of sympathy because they're putting themselves in this position. Then you find out about, the signal chat and, the targeting of ICE agents and the targeting of the Border Patrol, the targeting of Greg Bovino and his hotel room. And I just, you know what? I got shoulders up around my ears and palms to the sky. Sorry. I don't feel sorry for you. I just don't. And if that means that I'm losing my humanity, well, then that kind of sucks. But that's what the left is doing to, I think, a pretty significant portion of the American people. Would you say that's true, Joan? where
think
it's
so.
like, you know what? I does it mean that I'm losing my humanity, that I don't have any sympathy for an Alex Preddy or a Renee Good, but they're driving me to this.
Yeah. What?
I think, and Sam, I'm sure you'll agree with this too. I think that a lot of it has to do with because of the way the media has framed everything. We're just so less inclined to believe the narrative that they push.
Yeah.
And, you get battered by both sides so much that you just have to do the palms up in the air, shoulder shrug.
Well, and being shot at when you're running for president, apparently that's acceptable. Being shot at for speaking peacefully on a college campus, to them, that's acceptable. But when you physically interfere with federal agents, that's the line for them.
All right, coming up, I've got a text from the super text line 0751 that is going to knock your socks off.